Let's go to Congressman Dan Kildee, the Democrat in Michigan, a major power figure in the Democratic Party. Congressman, very good to have you. Are you going tonight, sir?
No, I'm not. And I did not press for a seat. You know, the seats are limited. And frankly, I love my home state of Michigan, so I decided I'd rather be back here.
That says a lot about you. You could have just gotten that ticket on your own, but you didn't do that. That would not have been me, Congressman. I would have just stolen the thing and gotten in there. But what do you make of the weirdness of it tonight, right? I mean, not to blame Republicans or Democrats, but in this COVID world, it's going to be a little stilted. It's going to be a little, scattered. Do you think it will impact the import of the speech?
I mean, I think it's going to have a different feel, that's for sure, because as the reporter that was just on was saying, I've been to many State of the Union addresses on the floor, and no matter who the president is, there's this sort of energy and excitement, maybe some tension on the floor because of that, and we're not going to see that. It won't be quite the same. I sort of think of it the same way the inauguration was. It was in the same place, and it took place in many of the same ways, but a much different feel.
Since last week chatted, Congressman, a lot of the more progressives in your party have been saying how pleasantly surprised they are by the tone, tenor, commitments on the part of President Biden, that he's a lot more liberal than they thought he would be, and that he's proposing some big spending that was far bigger than they thought it would be. Are you?
I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, what President Biden has laid out is a really bold agenda. And whenever there's a bold agenda, no matter what it is, it's going to have people on both sides of that question. But he's basically implementing what he ran on. I mean, the American Families Plan that he's putting forward tonight will include early childhood education, universal access to 2 years of community college. The stuff that we've been talking about, once it translates to actual policy, it tends to get more of a reaction. It's a big, bold agenda, no question about it, and it will cause some feathers to be ruffled, no question there either.
Yeah, obviously Republicans are saying it is so targeted against the rich and so much about raising cap gains taxes, the top rate, far more than was earlier thought, even when Joe Biden was campaigning for president. That he's put all of this on the backs of the rich, and even with all of that, Congressman, it doesn't come close to paying for it all. Do you think it's going to have to spread out, that these tax hikes are going to go well beyond the well-to-do?
Well, I think it has to do with where we land ultimately after going through the legislative process, because the president is going to lay out an aggressive plan. We're going to have to legislate this, and it's not clear where we're going to land on any of this. But I think it's really important to note, while it might not be specifically offset, in other words, the costs might not be offset with taxes, taking a page from some of my Republican colleagues, growth of the economy is how we grow our revenues to offset some of these expenditures. And what I see in this plan is a clear opportunity for us to continue to expand our economy. Putting more people through community college increases the skill base, makes us more competitive. Investing in infrastructure grows our economy. So I believe that while we might not have specific tax offsets for each aspect of this, when we look at the growth that we project that will come from this, I think we're going to be in good shape.
Do you think, Congressman, after all this, if the president gets what he wants, that the rich will finally be paying their fair share? Are we at that point?
Well, I think many people are not paying their fair share now. Where we land in the tax code, I think, is an unanswerable question right now. But
if he got everything, he wanted, because the lament has always been among your colleagues, at least, that the rich have not been paying their fair share. We thought we addressed that when the top rate was at 39.6%. Now it's going to return to that. We thought we were at that when states didn't impose these new surtaxes that brought this up with capital gains to well over 50% of taxation. Will we be, if the president gets everything he wants, past the point of saying the rich aren't paying enough?
Obviously, if the president gets everything he wants, that question would be answered. But the problem with the tax code, as I'm sure you know, is that looking at the rates and then looking at how the tax code is often used are two different things. And so it's a complicated web. We know, for example, some of the biggest and richest corporations in this country pay zero taxes, even though the corporate tax rate would imply that they're paying 21%. They're not. So it's a little more complicated than just looking at the rates. But I think if the president were able to succeed in getting what he has put forward, I think we'd be, knowing that fairness is in the eye of the beholder, we'd be much closer to a fair tax code.
Far more important right now, Congressman, is whether that drum set I see behind you is yours.
It is mine, and it's my 1960s Rogers drum set that I have been restoring during this whole COVID pandemic. Everybody have a hobby, and it's a beautiful set. I play it every day. It's a lot more fun to play than my electronic set, that's for sure.
Not too shabby. All right, Congressman, thank you very, very much.